1950. Harry Truman is at home in Independence, relaxing after a family dinner. Shortly after 9 p.m., the phone rings. Mr. President, I have some very serious news, says Secretary of State Dean Acheson. Truman listens in grim silence. North Korean troops have invaded South Korea and are marching towards its capital, Seoul. Margaret Truman recalled, "My father made it clear that he feared this was the opening of World War III. Korea has been two nations, divided at the 38th parallel since 1945. North Korean leader Kim Il-sung has ordered his troops to unite the Korean peninsula. He's supported by Communist China and possibly the Soviet Union. But why should Americans care? 10 months earlier, the Soviet Union exploded its first atomic bomb. Truman and his advisors agree. Korea is another front for communist aggression. It has to be contained. Truman turns to the United Nations. He proposes sending a multinational force to Korea. The Soviets boycott the session, but the UN Security Council approves it. For the first time since the UN was founded, armies of many nations will fight under one flag. But only Congress has the constitutional power to declare war. North Korea, however, is advancing quickly. So rather than ask for a vote from Congress, Truman meets with the top congressional leaders at the White House. All back him. For better or for worse, Truman's decision to bypass Congress sets a precedent for future presidents. Calling it a police action instead of war, Truman commits to defending South Korea.
We will continue to take every honorable step we can to avoid general war, but we will not engage in appeasement.
General Douglas MacArthur wants 30,000 troops. Truman agrees, but maintains that this will be a limited war to protect South Korea. Most Americans support Truman's decision. But once in battle, poorly equipped American GIs are outnumbered 3-1. Routed, American and UN forces retreat. By early August, 100,000 troops under the UN flag cling to a corner of the Korean peninsula. But General MacArthur has a plan. Pointing to a map, he says if he had one full Marine division, I'd land them here at Incheon. The move would be daring, an invasion behind enemy lines. Despite other generals' misgivings, Truman takes the gamble and approves the Incheon invasion. At dawn on September 15, 1950, 13,000 Marines land. Incheon falls in a day. 2 weeks later, UN forces recapture Seoul, then drive to the 38th parallel. With MacArthur talking of hot pursuit, Truman and his advisors now consider invading North Korea, not just to protect South Korea, but to unite the country and stop communism. Truman still fears provoking the Chinese and triggering a world war, but approves the invasion. In mid-October, Pyongyang falls. UN forces push north toward the Chinese border. But in November, slipping across the Yalu River under cover of night, 260,000 Chinese troops, a human wave, pour into North Korea. In a letter, Truman writes, "It looks like World War III is here." Advisors also fear that the Soviets are behind the Chinese invasion. The winter is a bleak one for Truman, America, and for soldiers in Korea. Driven back by the Chinese, UN forces retreat. MacArthur presses Truman to strike back, urging a naval blockade of China and even an atomic bombing of the Chinese mainland. When Truman refuses to expand the war, MacArthur violates orders. He publicly challenges the president. Truman is infuriated, but stays the course. Finally, better news comes. At the front, General Matthew Ridgway takes command. He boosts troop morale. He uses heavy artillery to halt the long retreat. Encouraged by victory and new leadership, UN forces are advancing again. By spring, they're back in Seoul. Buoyed by success, MacArthur defies Truman and on March 24th issues a communique to the Chinese, threatening them with imminent military collapse. For Truman, it's the final straw. The president is commander-in-chief. I was ready to kick him into the North China Sea, Truman remembered. On April 11, 1951, Truman, with the support of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, fires America's most popular general.
I have therefore considered it essential to relieve General MacArthur so that there would be no doubt or confusion as to the real purpose and aim of our policy.
Calls come for Truman's impeachment. MacArthur comes home to a hero's welcome. Truman's approval rating, already below 30%, falls even lower. Korea remains a stalemate. While peace talks begin in July 1951, battles rage along the 38th parallel. Truman leaves office in January 1953. 6 months later, a truce, not a peace treaty, is signed. After 36,000 American and 2 million Korean deaths, North and South Korea remain divided, and still are today.